The thing about the Battle.net forums is that it exists in like an alternate reality. So you would imagine the StarCraft world is like one giant place where everybody mostly agrees over things. But no. You have, for example, Twitch chats. You have, for example, the YouTube comment section. You have the subreddit. You have the Team Liquid forums. And then you have the Battle.net forums. Like, we all have a similar origin point, but then we like, kind of like planet Earth, we evolved and spread out in different ways. Now, I will say that the Battle.net forums are probably the dumbest place for any StarCraft fan to go and hang out. Like, there's a lot of people that will just say things that are wildly inaccurate and just straight up not true. Like, you could just spend 30 seconds fact-checking any of it, but they say it in like a very confident way. And that's how I feel about the Battle.net forums. There's just a lot of things that are being said, and then they discuss it amongst each other, but they all bring up arguments that like other folks that also don't understand the game very well have made prior to it. I am fairly sure that the ratio of like forum posts to actual games played is about 10-1. You will have like one guy, exactly, who's like, okay, 1 + 1 is 3, so therefore Terran's overpowered. And then somebody will bring up that post from back in the day and be like, yeah, see, just like this guy, he also said that 1 + 1 is 3, so therefore he's right, and therefore I can use that as part of my argument. So anyways, that's why I don't really go to the Battle.net forums all too often, but we can have a little peek. Actually, I did go here like last week, just on like a little leisurely stroll. It's kind of like going to the zoo, you know? You look at the animals, but you don't feed the monkeys. StarCraft 2 is mainly SimCity now. The title says all. I remember when you played this game, and it was actually about tactics, but had way worse balance and useless units. Now all you have to do is expand, expand, expand. People frequently take half the map. Back in the day, you scouted and had to make a decision. Take a third, or make units, or attack the third, or defend. Now the response to being attacked is to expand somewhere else fast. The game became dull and a SimCity. Who then sniped more bases and expended more just A-moves the other player? This is a great example of exactly the argument I was just trying to make. If you see that your opponent is playing too greedy, you can most definitely attack them. Now, obviously, you can choose to expand. But if you actually played a game, or if you actually have seen anybody play the game at a higher level over the last few years, you know that people get punished all the time for being too greedy. Let's see what the comments are all about. Attack their expos and keep them from expanding. If you don't have vision, fog of war will keep their economy strong. If you don't like your opponent mass expanding, then use timing attacks or something else other than a macro build. Okay, that's what I do, but the economy changes made it so that it's really easy to macro. The economy changes made to the game, the most recent ones that have been significant, were in Legacy of the Void, where they reduced the amount of resources per base. So this was about a decade ago. And they basically made the game less turtley. So it's the opposite of what Robertus is trying to argue. They made it so that it's really easy to macro and have expansions. So the counter to, I guess the maps may be slightly bigger. So who attacks is always behind. The best tactic is to turtle. Only Zerg and Toss have effective anti-turtle units. The siege tank is countered by Zerlings and Zealots. I don't know, dude. I oftentimes feel like what happens on the forums is that somebody loses like one game and then base everything off of that one experience and then balance wine it on the forums. It's a weird experience. The thing is though, this is very much so parallel of what happens in real life too. Like people have one bad experience and then base the rest of their life off of that exclusively. Now, if I keep going down this line of thought, we have a balanced discussion and then a political discussion very quick. So we probably want to reverse a little bit, but anyways, new Zerg upgrade. Let's see. Make a new Zerg upgrade for Zerg at each building after Hive Tech. Call it Zerg Swarm. Research at Hive Tech. 200, 200, morph a Zerg unit after 20 seconds inside an egg to double itself after 20 seconds. What? Each of these units are half the supply, effectively doubling your army on the field. That would be insanely overpowered. Yes. Fun for the campaign, not so much fun to play against. Perhaps a modification to my idea would be a more balanced, but it's a starting point. Honestly, I feel like one of the reasons why StarCraft 2 has a 200 supply cap is just because the game starts lagging when you get too many units out on the battlefield. Like, StarCraft 2 is still a game made for, like, one CPU core. And because of it, you kind of run into issues when you have a whole load of upgrades and a whole load of units out there. The Swarm Host is just toxic. Okay. Here's Robertus again. He played another game. This time around against Swarm Hosts. He already admitted to being a Terran player. I think we would all agree, if we were to make a StarCraft 2 unit tier list, Swarm Hosts are at the absolute lowest tier. Like, they are the least utilized and probably weakest unit in all of StarCraft 2. For good reason, because once upon a time they were horribly overpowered. Title says all, just remove it from the game. It's just too overpowered. It's an alternate reality. Like, maybe the Matrix is real. It was designed to bridge gap before Brute Lords? That's not true. Brute Lords were in the game since 2010, and Swarmos were introduced, I believe, with Heart of the Swarm, which is 2013. It was designed to bridge the gap before Brute Lords, but this was before they brought Lurkers back in the game. Lurkers were added in the game in 2015. What Zerg needs is real AoE and not a suicide or spell that can attack air. Swarm Host can't attack air. What do you... What is going on here? What is happening? Well, that's where fungal growth comes in and hits both ground and air. Lol. Sorry, what? I said not a spell and fungal growth is trash. Well, then explain, how would you make something that isn't like a spell or the Baneling that has AoE? This is about Swarm Host allegedly being overpowered. How did this... What happened? I don't know. I do not know. StarCraft 2 statistics on the number of Smurfs. Hi! I just want to start out with being clear that this is not a forum discussing on how bad or okay smurfing is. This is just a query on statistics. My goal here is just a non-biased, easy to record way on the number of people manipulating their MMR on the ladder. My stats over the last 2 weeks are 13 games won in the first 30 seconds, and I've won 56 games in total. This suggests that around 23% of my games at 3300 MMR was against Smurfs. I understand that this isn't accurate. If you find any flaws in this look, I think he means flaws. I know this isn't enough data points for an accurate estimation. Okay, I'm glad. There is definitely smurfing going on in StarCraft 2. It's 100% a thing. It's frustrating, mostly because of the fact that you can't choose to, like, veto a matchup, right? So, for example, if you really hate playing Terran versus Terran, there's people out there that will just auto-leave any Terran versus Terran that they'll have, and therefore, obviously, their MMR goes down, and it means that when they do go up against a player that's not Terran, they will face people that are lower in MMR relative to what they probably should have been. So, it's, yeah, a bit of a thing. Blizzard has never really done anything about it. Part-time smurfing isn't actually smurfing. Yeah, it's frustrating. I do agree with smurfing being but I also kind of feel like oftentimes it's a little bit overblown. Maybe this is not entirely accurate, but you know, people have always use something as a crutch to explain why they are losing. Some folks are, I don't know, for example, just blaming balance. Some people are blaming hacks. Some people are blaming the map design. Some people are blaming David Kim, who hasn't worked at StarCraft 2 for like a decade. I feel like smurfing may just be like the latest version of it, and it's something that does genuinely happen. But I don't really know exactly if it's as prevalent as some folks are making it out to be. Because there's people out there that think like every second game they play is against a person that's, you know, reduced their MMR on purpose. Like, I lost the game, and I am an absolute god at the game, so therefore my opponent must be a smurf, right? Like, that's kind of the general vibe I'm getting, but it is certainly a thing. I don't know if it's as prevalent, though, as people are saying it is. A lot of map hackers on the ladder. Lately, I noticed a lot of map hacker on the ladder. What is Blizzard doing about it? And does using the report player button actually do something? This is another one of those things. There's probably a few map hackers out there. I wouldn't be surprised. Is it that prevalent? 4-4 upgrades for Terran and Zerg make Protoss balanced in the late game. After crunching the numbers and running experiments, I finally figured out the way you balance Protoss. It's to let Terran and Zerg have 4-4 upgrades. Yeah, that would absolutely destroy Protoss across the board. If you want to balance something for Zerg, make the supply cap for Zerg 300. That would also absolutely destroy balance. This guy says he did the research and that he's got the info, but he doesn't share any of the research or any of the data. Terran economic and defensive advantages are overpowered. I would like to raise a serious balance concern regarding the current state of balance and Terran economy. Alright. At the moment, Terran benefits from a combination of mechanics that make its economy and defense far stronger and more forgiving than Zerg and Protoss. Mules provide excessive mineral income, command centers can be repaired. Additionally, SCVs have 45 HP, which makes them disproportionately resilient compared to the workers from other races. Is this written by AI? They have 5 more health than drones and probes. Disproportionately resilient? To restore fairness and make economic management more skill-based, I strongly suggest removing mules, removing planetaries, reducing SCV HP. Like, balancing the game, man, it's not so easy as a lot of people are making it out to be. Like, small changes absolutely break stuff at the highest level, right? Like, we've had things like, for example, where people are now saying Microbial Shroud might be overpowered. Like, they've added, like, a little thing to it, made it weaker in a couple areas too, and it goes from being, like, the worst spell in the game to maybe even one of the best, right? Like, the jump is it's very quick. One little adjustment, and immediately something goes from being horribly overpowered to being horribly underpowered, right? So, removing mules, reducing SCV HP, and making command centers no longer upgradable to planetaries is nuts. What Zerg needs for balance? Ability spread creep from overlords from get-go. This can allow Zerg to stop stupid build rushes that force Zerg to lose economy, which is make almost a loss. Plus, it is done since it gives Protoss and Terran free win or huge advantage. There is no counterplay and not even lose 50 to 100 mins. Spines and spores need to cost... Oh, he means minerals. Spines and spores cost 50 minerals. This I don't hate, although it could be very annoying. It's kind of fun to be able to spread creep right from the very start. I don't know if it would be broken though, like you could maybe like drop creep in the opponent's natural expansion before they take it. I don't even hate that. This obviously would be absurd. It would be a massive buff. The problem with this is that it would make late game, completely unplayable. Like, Zerg would just be very difficult to stop. Says the guy who's 2.4k with Zerg. Why do Hellions do so much damage to non-light units? I don't know why mineral build base units kill non-light units. It is because Marines, do they need to counter everything as well? It's so dumb to allow it to be able to beat everything. In what world do Hellions kill everything? They're not that good, man. They destroy any unit, is what he says. Yeah, it's the same Zerg player yet again. I think he's a Zerg. If he's actually 2.4k, 2.4k is probably Gold League or so? I'm not even entirely sure. Buff Ravens to help against Protoss. Make the Ravens interference matrix stun the enemy unit for 3 to 5 seconds. Ravens are a little bit underutilized, I will agree. They are a pretty fun unit. The problem is, again, turtle play, right? Like, if you can just counter with anything. We had that in Brood War with Lockdown. You run into some other issues again. Ghost plus 25 HP. Fix personal feedback a repost. So they just buffed Ghosts and gave them 25 HP, but they also made them light. Before the 5 or plus 25 HP fix, I, as a Zerg player, also think it's, or he's a Zerg and Protoss player, also think it's too vulnerable for Ghost to get light armor tech. 3 banlings destroy groups of Gust. But it's hard to strike a balance here. What are you... So what... What is your argument, sir? You realize that the balance designers are fighting their own brains because they kept saying they don't encourage turtling, but they actually do. Excellent. Isn't it fascinating how the StarCraft community exists in such separate, like, parts of the game? This is how Darwin originally proved evolution, right? He did it with birds on islands, but we do it with StarCraft 2, and then communities that have been separated for about a decade. And they end up in vastly, like, even though they meet in mutual grounds, they are vastly separate. Matchup selection in unranked. This is, I agree with 100%, yes. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of people feel like they're going up against Smurfs. So, unranked ladder and ranked ladder are the same pool. So if you're playing unranked and you don't want to practice, say again, Terran versus Terran, and you're playing unranked and you see, hey, my opponent is a Terran, a lot of people will just leave. Which, if your opponent was playing ranked, would give them points. This is a good thing. Why not allow vetoing matchups the same way that maps can be vetoed? Yes, 100%. Quick play? 20 characters. I'm guessing he needed to have 20 characters before he can make a reply to the forum post. Yes, what is this quick play? You play unranked? Sorry, other games terminology, I guess. What are you... What... Weird. Is this how people communicate as well in real life in like a professional setting? Like if Beast gets like Say he's at the office and he gets an email from a colleague. Is this how we reply? Nobody understands what you're going on, man. Like, we're spending, like, half the day trying to decipher your very poorly written replies. I don't get it. Protoss design flaws from RTS balance view. Long passage. Since Protoss' dominant performance over other two races, shown by the win rate on balance report in Aliga-like websites, I want to share the below with you. Well, he's not wrong. The above is players' comments that I quoted. Welcome everyone's discussion. What? You just have a bunch of random guys that wrote a few words, and now you're posting it, and you're like, discuss. Obviously, not everybody is from, like, an English-speaking country, right? I get it. Balance suggestions. Workers limited to one building at a time. This balance suggestion is targeting Protoss in particular, though this would affect Terran. The suggestion is meant to target Wallins and cheese from Protoss. I know this change would be extremely unpopular. What's the change? Oh, a Protoss unit can only make one building at a time? How would this affect Terran? Terran buildings can only be made by one SCV at a time. Why a probe nerf, of all things? Like, who has... No, it's stupid. Maybe he thinks mass construction is a thing in multiplayer? No one's following you to block you. You have just made a bad post in the past. That's all. Yeah, I think what he's trying to say, that like when you want to make a pylon, the probe is just gonna like stare at the pylon, and before the pylon is done, it cannot make another building. I think that's what he's suggesting, but that's silly. Completely unnecessary too, and just not fun. Like, what is the problem you're trying to fix, and why is this the solution? It's not really a problem, and it's not really a solution to anything. Solving the real issue with the game. Early attacks. I agree, there's not enough of them. We need to see more early attacks. Do you think that's what he's gonna argue too? I think the game is a little bit too passive across the board. I don't think he's gonna argue the same thing though. It seems that people don't fully acknowledge the effect of early attacks. I'll be specific. When playing Zerg against Protoss, it seems like there's no good way to start the game. When early expanding, Protoss can either block it, cannon rush it, or proxy zeal it. It puts me off playing because there's no normal way to play. Yeah, he's arguing that there's too much early game aggression. I'm saying there's probably not enough of it. I kind of miss seeing people do early game cheeses. If you are ever watching this, guys, you should just go like 14 hatch. Every game. If you go 14 hatch first, they can't block your expansion. Yes, it's technically an off-meta build, but that's because the top-level Zergs will go for like the third base as their first expansion if their natural gets blocked, and they can play from there. But it's really annoying if you're a ladder hero. Just go 14 hatch, take the small eco hit, and you can guarantee an expansion every time. Cannons need to take 7+ more seconds to build, because while they're perfectly interactable at most points of the game, they're horribly stupid at the beginning. Do you guys think there's too much cannon rushing going on in StarCraft 2? Maybe I look at too many high-level games, but I feel like there's not enough. I really miss seeing pro gamers especially cannon rush. Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, the higher you climb up on the ladder, the less cheese there is. Yeah, it's a problem. If you are seeing a lot of cheese as a Zerg, you can just 12 pool any Protoss, which is also really quite good. Yeah, it's one of the difficult parts about StarCraft 2, right? A lot of the cheeses are way easier to execute than they are to defend. Issue not nerf Protoss or Terran, but to buff and open tactics for Zerg. This is why Overlords should be able to spread creep. Dude, Striker is back in action again. This is the Gold League Zerg that made that couple of posts that we saw earlier. Luke, even get Sax Overlord. Yo, buddy, you do whatever with your Overlord you want to do, but don't talk about it on the internet, okay? Even get Sax Overlord won't make to other side until after Stalker's Cone online. Terrans already have Marines. I never understand why Zerg always gets shafted, even though it's easy fix. Honestly, the real reason why Zerg has had the lower end of the stick, or the shorter end of the stick for the last 5-ish years, is that Serral is too good at the game. They've been desperately trying to nerf Serral, and then when Zergs no longer compete, Serral still finds a way. You're simply a garbage tier player. It would be silly to tailor balance. Tailor balance? Sorry. It would be silly to tailor balance upon how you see the gameplay. Yeah, it is. It is frustrating, right? Because, like, it almost feels, if you're, like, starting off as a ladder player in StarCraft 2, that, like, the point when you're allowed to start having fun is when you can stop all of the cheese. Like, your first several hundred games are going to be all about early game aggression because, like, they're so difficult to stop. And I think it's also due to the fact that, like, the higher you go, the less frequently you see it. So at the pro level, we never really see people getting cheesed very much at all. And then, because of that, nobody really sees pro gamers deal with it, so you don't really learn what the best response is either. It's a weird disconnect where, like, for us mortals, a lot of cheese still happens, but at the pro level, it's so uncommon. I would like to see more cheeses at the pro level, just because I kind of miss it. Serral Garbage 2, what did he link?
Hello, friends, family, and other creatures of this.
You had one job, man! You should have... Can't believe he linked a Hearthstone video. This was why... I can't believe it. Serral lost the Cannon Rush game. I didn't watch the rest. Good. Good. Very good. Okay, one more post and then I'm done. Patch went live just now. Patch is up on NA. Hop on, boys, and enjoy. 18 days ago. Well, I guess we're buffing the hell out of Protoss even more and giving some buff to Zerg. I don't think this patch was ready to go live. The Microbial Shroud change in particular is probably going to require a cascade of changes further down the line. This is an underused word. I should use the word cascade way more frequently too. That's a cool word. I like it. Definitely an S tier word that doesn't get enough use. Great patch. It's only a 50% damage reduction. It's only a... Are you kidding me, dude? Only 50%? This is not Brood War. Stop conflating Microbial Shroud as if it's no different than Dark Swarm. Infestors are not defilers. The difference between the two is literally night and day. Alright. I think we should use this word less frequently. Cascade, more frequently, literally less frequently. In my opinion, it's okay for Microbial Shroud to be strong, because 90% of the population doesn't have the speed to use it. How is this an argument for anything? I don't understand. How do you think of this and be like, well, that makes it fine? Yes, incompetent doesn't balance out broken mechanics. Thank you. This is the same guy that wrote the word cascade. I like it. I think so, anyways. Yeah. Tyrannic 2. This guy is using all the right words. Tell that to the Protoss players. There's a sign of a broken mechanic that doesn't belong in the game. You probably could say the same about old Protoss Ball of Death. The Protoss Death Ball is beatable by both Terran and Zerg. Alright, Tyrannic. Now we're getting... Okay, no, you're right. You're right. Adventurer, by the way, used to write essays upon essays upon essays, but he's no longer doing it. What's going on? I have kind of poked fun at Adventurer the last 17 times I went to the forums, just because he would, like, respond to very short posts with, like, a 7-page document. Nobody would read it. Oh, no, okay, alright, we do have a second paragraph in this one. The skill difference and effort disparity was bad enough, but then the Protoss GMs were BM and saying Zerg is OP and telling me that Zerg needs nerf, calling me cement head. What? This is a word people use? I googled it. I've never heard anybody refer to anyone as cement head. Oh yeah, apparently it's it's a thing from Darkwing Duck. Whatever that is. Alright. These clowns need a big slice of humble pie, and if not, then they can enjoy playing Protoss versus Protoss to eternity. There's no way Protoss win rate doesn't go up after this patch. What did Zerg get? A tiny buff to Spire? Lol. Man, there's so many buffs for Zerg this patch, though. I would probably say the biggest one for Zerg is plus 5 HP to Banelings. Doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but it's very significant. It's around a 20% damage reduction. It's not a straight buff. To what? 12.5% DPS. I checked it in the editor. Oh, they're talking about Storm, I think. Yeah, they have adjusted the value of Storm, though. So they did a hotfix after this original set of changes went live. A field trip to the Battle.net forums is something truly special. Honestly, most of the posts here are not as silly as I thought they were going to be. Get good with EMP from the Ghost. It is interesting, right? Because, yeah, like, balance obviously affects everybody. Right? Like, if you play the game and the Ghost becomes more powerful, then obviously it is something that affects your game. But there is a point where, like, the balance is pretty much irrelevant because all the reasons why you're losing is because of misplays. Like, I find that always a difficult thing to really talk about. Like, at what point is it literally just a skill issue? And at what point is it a balance issue? I feel like if you are trying to get better at StarCraft 2, considering balance is one of, like... So I've tried getting good at StarCraft for a long time. I think thinking about balance too much really ruins the experience. I think a mindset where you think about the game and the game that you've just lost, right? And when you're just about to consider balance, right? And you're like, the reason I lost is because of balance. I think it's always good to think, okay, what if Clem would have been playing rather than me? What if Cyril would have been playing rather than me? What if Hero would have been playing rather than me? Would they have lost against the opponent? The answer is no. They would have absolutely destroyed the opponent with the exact same tools at their disposal as you. I feel like if you're too focused on balance, if you're too focused on, for example, potential hacking or smurfing or whatever, like, yes, all of that is an issue, but it does kind of just make the entire ladder experience way less fun when you're always looking for, like, outside reasons why you lose. I think it's better to focus on the things you can control rather than the stuff that you can't control. Maybe get a couple of Stoicism books. Do a little bit of philosophy reading. A little bit of light reading before you go onto the ladder. And then when you're losing, that's when you start reconsidering. Yeah, StarCraft 2 really is a beautiful parallel for life in a lot of ways. Like, the thing is, they balance the game around the pro level. And ultimately, for, like, most people out there, the Ghost being 2 supply rather than 3 isn't going to make any difference. But it will make a difference at the pro level. Yeah, it's always tricky. Balance is never easy. Luckily, on the forums, according to a lot of people, it's very straightforward.